I want to continue this theme on style and get to your questions as well. Let's take this one first on that theme. Roberto, how did you develop your coaching philosophy? Where did that come from?
I think it comes from the experience that I had. Remember that I was a young player. At 16, I signed my professional contract at Real Zaragoza, and the education was with possession football and the idea that if you got the ball, the opposition hasn't got it and you can defend with it, and I was trying to learn that appreciation of a space.
But your father was a coach as well, wasn't he?
Yes, a local area, a real thinker, someone that from a young age, always we had those discussions at home, and we would never watch a game from a normal point of view, or who scored the goal. It would be why that person had a free chance, where was the tactical advantage. So that's always been in my mind. But obviously coming at the age of 21, to come into the other extreme is almost everything that has been told before. It doesn't matter from now on, the game is played in a different way. And I think that is where I was very fortunate to get that spectrum of the two extremes of how the game can be played. And then with your own experiences and your own likes, and you can pick and choose and try to model it for what is needed on the pitch.
Do you think that's why, Thierry, this relationship works between the two of you? Because inherently you have the same beliefs, the same ideas about how football should be played?
Yes, I will say that, and obviously it did help me, obviously, when I went down to play for Barcelona, and I relearned how to play the game.
Did that really change your view on how football should be played?
Yes, it did, because Arsenal was all about freedom, do whatever you want in bracket, obviously, within what the boss wanted in a way. But you got Barcelona, and it's about position. When they talk about defending, is make sure you keep the ball and stay in your position. I mean, you never hear that. I was like, what? You know, usually people will say, they're already saying, when they talk about defending, assuming that you lost the ball. At Barcelona, when you talk about defending, is make sure you don't lose the ball. You know, obviously, I don't have the experience of the boss in terms of obviously managing, but we're in a way on the same tune. But there is something I wanted to ask the boss: is did the dream team? The dream team is, I don't know if people all know that, but the Romario, Stoichkov, Guardiola, Laudrup, that Barcelona side, Koeman, Begiristain, and I'm not going to name them all. How much of an impact that had on you as a coach and how you see the game now? Huge
Impact. I think is one of those experiences that you learn in the game through how Johan Cruyff, arriving to Barcelona, almost puts his ideas across and starts something very, very drastic, up to the point that the first 6 months were quite difficult. And the turning point was a very small moment where everything clicks into place. And that developed a way of playing and a philosophy that is still very visible today. At that point, you are very curious and you're intrigued. How can a team go from a normal back four with 4 defenders into almost 1 defender and 2 fullbacks, and playing back 3 and playing in between lines, and developing an incredible way of playing the game that, if it was done properly, the significance and the benefits were huge. I think it depends on what age you are, and at that time I was almost understanding a little bit the game, and that was an incredible influence, especially what Johan Cruyff did, arriving into a very demanding football club and changing the whole philosophy, and then seeing the process, how difficult it was to make it perfect on the pitch.
One word answer: who's the most influential coach on you?
I can't give one word answer, because 2 had an impact on me in 2 different ways. Arsene developed my brain and stimulated my brain and made me realize how good of a player I could be. And Pep, that's the second one, obviously that's why I said 2. And Pep opened my eyes on a tactical thing that I didn't even know about, basically.
And would he be the coach that you most admire now? That's in the game right now?
I think what is done in the British game is very remarkable. It's just a coach, obviously, has won everything at Barcelona, has won everything at Bayern de Munich, or what he did there. I think as a coach, I always say that the manager only becomes a manager after 2 defeats, because you get a question mark. you get a doubt. Is this the right way to do it, or should I change it? Should it, a little bit the typical question, should I change its style? Will it become better with a different style? I think Pep Guardiola is a purist, but is obsessed with the detail and making it happen on the pitch. And we've seen the evolution. And I think that type of taking risks, make sure that you become better at what you're trying to achieve, is something that I admire. It's attacking play. Anyone would pay money to watch Manchester City play. It's just that excitement that it brings onto the football pitch.
But something I wanted to add, and I know that people love stories like that, and Pep as a player, and when you go there, guys tell you stories in the dressing room. They were playing a game away at Atletico. It was one of the Van Gaal just arrived and tried to put a tactic out there on the field, and apparently the story goes that Pep changed the tactic on the field and started to say to people where to stand, what to do, and they won the game. The guy was already a coach on the field. Xavi was also very much like that, and you know, at times it almost is too much. That's one of his, if I can say, a problem. I wouldn't call that. I would call that a good problem. He sees a lot and he tends to change it. But as a player, can you imagine being on the field and just changing the tactic of your coach?
Fascinating. Of course, we have a lot of Everton fans watching tonight, Roberto. You'd expect that, and this is very typical of the sort of things that are being fired your way. If you could have done anything in your time at Everton differently, what would it have been?
I'm not the type of person to look back and trying to think that you could have done it any different way. I like to take really a real care about the decisions that you make and you put in place. So you put them in place for a reason, and you try to develop that vision. I'm looking back at the time at Everton with a lot of with an incredible satisfaction and great memories. I always felt that we needed to win silverware in order to kick on, and we were very close. The second season we were the last British team in Europe. The third season we had 2 semi-finals, and both we were very close. I think you could see that the mentality of the group was getting ready for those big games. But it's demanding. I understand it. Probably we got the expectations high enough to believe that we should have been able to compete in cup competitions and in the league, and been able to finish as high as we did in the first season.
Too high though?
Well, they never too high when what you want to do is.
Do you think you created your own pressure there?
I believe in that. I believe on not being too be over realistic. I almost want to chase a dream. If you go to Swansea, you want to get promoted. You want to try to get somewhere that you're not. If you're at Wigan, you want to reach something, get into Europe, winning the FA Cup, try to stay up, developing a way of playing. At Everton, we were very conscious. We had to bring young players. We needed to invest in that potential and develop that talent into allow us to grow. At that point, you got young players of the like of Romelu Lukaku, Ross Barkley, John Stones, Gerald Deulofeu. All of those were progressing the team. But at times, as a young player, you need to develop with the areas that they will allow you to develop and those experiences. And that probably, I always felt that we were very, very close. And sometimes those little moments that would allow you to earn silverware would allow that time to see the overall vision that I had.
On Ross Barkley, you say is one of the most talented players that you have worked with.
I think Ross, I think you could show clips and you could do a package and you would see something quite exceptional. I think with Ross Barkley, and I said it many times, I don't think some players, you cannot manage them for what they are. I think you need to manage them for what they can be. And I think with Ross, I always found what he could bring into the team. He's not a player that you need to ask everything. You don't expect him to be a proper focused defender that is going to do everything off the ball, but on the ball there are not many players that they got that physicality and technical ability so efficient in big distances, and is almost that player that you want to fit in a structure where the team doesn't suffer. I really enjoyed working with Ross.
Do you think he needs special care, special management though?
Well, you need to highlight what they're good at. If you want to concentrate, that's something I found very frustrating in '95 when I arrived. The first thing the first coach I had, or the coaches I had, is they wanted to highlight my weaknesses and ask me to become better at my weaknesses. And they weren't too bothered about my what I could do really well. So I became an average player. And I think in the case of Ross Barkley, you shouldn't concentrate on what he can do. It's what he can bring. And his talent is of the highest level to have a specific role in a team.
Do you think it's a shame that it looks fairly inevitable he won't be going to the World Cup, and you probably wouldn't have said that at the time that you and he parted ways?
Well, he's already had the experience of Brazil 2014, maybe in a young age that nobody expected to be part of that England squad. I think what it matters is the tenacity of a player like Ross Barkley. He needs to learn from this experience. He needs to find himself again, and he needs to kick on. It's not about missing a World Cup or not. He needs to enjoy his football. He needs to be back to what he was doing at Everton. And I don't think he will be bothered about missing a World Cup or not. He'll be bothered about not starting in his club and not being able to show what he can do.
Does Thierry join in with training, Roberto?
Oh my God!
And is he still good? It could have been my question.
He is very good. He is very good.
You can't tell that story, was?
No, I can't.
No, you
Come on. We want to hear
He's
it.
capable of joining. Let's say that's the answer.
Well, to follow up that then, what made you want to bring in Thierry to be your assistant?
I think obviously we're going into something very, very different, which is tournament football, no margin of error, being able to cope with the expectations of representing your nation, having a generation full of talent that has almost developed the hopes and the belief and the dreams of a nation. And we needed some direction. It's almost going to the moon. We're trying to achieve something that has never been done in Belgian football. It's that lack of direction that previous generations. You're talking about World Cup, straight away the favourite nations are going to be the ones that they've already been successful in the last 25 years. France, Brazil, Argentina, Spain and Germany. Thierry brings, apart from that, as you can see, is obsessed about the game, and not many top footballers, and I shouldn't say that in front of him, but not many top footballers know how to pass advice. They cannot simplify what it was raw talent for them. It's the opposite. It's not many people that you're going to find that they can do that. And then he brings that know-how of, he's won the World Cup, he's won the European Championships under the expectations of a nation, because the players at that time almost brought those expectations, which is a real similarity with what we got in Belgian football now.
OK. So moving forward into the World Cup, how do you avoid the pressure that comes with that golden generation tag going into tournaments? Something you know about as well.
But it's you know, what happens with that is, first and foremost, you need to have a generation that was almost there. So we had that in France, and in Belgium also, they had that. They had an amazing generation in the 80s, and they kind of opened that path for you. And then I always say, I'm not talking about that generation or any generation. You are a generation. To be a golden generation, you need to put some gold on it. What I mean by gold is winning, and that's the aim that we have. You don't want to be sitting back home in 10 years and thinking, wow, we had a good generation. What you want is to make sure that you call each other, you go on holiday with each other and say, do you remember when we won that? And it's going to be time also, do you remember when we lost that one? Or whatever. But you also can have, do you remember when we won that? So generation is good. It was very important for Belgium to be able to qualify again and to be where the team is right now and where the country is, and all those players being so dominant in their team. And not even dominant, some of the best players in their team. Now, you're going to be in the Belgium camp that the boss obviously is going to lead, and is going to be in the driving seat. Can you make that generation a golden generation? And that will be perfect.
But there's no great history of Belgium reaching finals and semi-finals. Would getting through the group stages be success for you?
There's not such a thing as assessing a World Cup before it happened. I think you can assess the qualification campaign, and now we've earned the right of having 3 games. That's the only thing we've got. And now we need to almost work hard to try to see what we can do with those 3 games. We need to grow with the tournament. It's almost significant. I think in Spain, it was a period that really good group of players, but it was very difficult to know what it takes to get far in the tournament. And everything goes down to those feelings that you get in the first games, how you become a real unit, a team that you can face adversity, which is nothing to do with the talent that you have. And I think it's something that you cannot work until you get into the real stage.
There was obviously great excitement when Belgium and England drawn together because we know each other's players so well, don't we? So many of your players, Roberto, are playing in the Premier League. But are there other dangers lurking in this Group G that perhaps we don't talk about enough, namely Panama and Tunisia?
Well, we don't. I think there are names that probably they are not as well known as other nations, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to be extremely difficult. I think Panama, you need to remember that they are the ones that they kept USA out of the World Cup, probably the biggest investment in international football to try to get in a World Cup. Panama with a coach, Bolillo, was the assistant of Pacho Maturana, has been involved in 3 World Cups with different nations. So there is a real experience there. But the biggest aspect is that these teams, they got nothing to lose. They clearly can go to the World Cup and have the opportunity to become national heroes and enjoy the occasion, which is very, very difficult when you are expected to get a positive result in a World Cup against a nation that they are a winning nation for their own right because they qualified to the World Cup. That is clearly a big challenge ahead.
Well, of course, we wish you all the very best with it, Roberto, all apart from one game.
I'm sure you do.
We've been winding up Thierry incessantly. But thank you so much for your company and for your insight this evening. It's been really valuable. And we'll see you again next season.